100%. Are you 100% certain of what you think is going on is going on? Is there maybe just a teeny weeny space that maybe you could be wrong? And if you were wrong, what does that mean for you? On day 9 in my book, it's called Committed and Unattached. And those that have worked with me know that that's a key place to get to be committed to trusting your inner guidance, unattached to the results. And in that process, other experiences can come up for you. So for me, this week, I was committed to following my inner guidance, which was about presenting evidence to the police that our freedoms and rights are being broken, right? That the only limitations that could ever be imposed have to be demonstrated justifiably by the due process of law. There has to be sworn in under oath evidence. There has to be fundamental justice. And none of that has occurred. That is what I've observed. So the people that have sworn in these orders essentially are the ones, that are so-called committing the crimes, right? So there is that awareness of that aspect. Do I believe this whole global transformation is happening for everybody's highest and best good and for the planet to become in a new paradigm? Absolutely. So in that process, I also have to believe that every single person, including the so-called accused, are doing the role they need to do in this moment in time. And if you're like me, you've done things or said things in the past that maybe you go, oh, wow, I never want to do that again. Got to change that, especially if you're a parent. You can't go back in the past and change anything. All we have is right now. And in that right now, all you can be is who you're going to be. And if you get new information in the next moment, you'll get that information and you can do things differently. So I felt guided to present 80 pages of evidence to the police to say there's more harm being done than good. That the idea of the orders are to protect the public health of the population. However, that's not what's going on here. Okay, I'm only going to speak about here where I am. You can speak from where you are and what's going on in your world, because every part of the world is having a different experience with this. They're trying to weave it together that it's all the same, but everybody's having a different experience. So people have lost loved ones, people have committed suicide, people have lost their businesses, people are being confronted as a parent. Is my child's socialization more important than them staring at a computer for education? So maybe I need to mask them. I don't believe in the mask either. Everybody's moral compass is being challenged now, right? It's this inner knowing that's being confronted. And then people want to judge someone else's choices. And if you've ever been in any sort of situation where you're in between, you're like, oh, well, there's a lot of good reasons here and there's a lot of good reasons there. Which one do I do? It can be challenging. And as I mentioned I said, even if, let's say, the global elite, right, the so-called governments, somehow got this information that the planet was going to be destroyed in a year unless they, essentially wiped out the population and cut down carbon emissions, they still are forgetting about our rights. Each of us have the right to be free. Each of us have the right to make the corresponding choice. The government is a representation of the living, breathing men and women in the world. And if the living, breathing men and women are okay with just handing over and trusting that the governments and the health ministry and et cetera, the educational, the judicial, they all have your best interests at heart, then that's awesome, because that's your perception. You're 100% true that that's the case. I believe that once upon a time. That's how I grew up, that of course people all had their best interests. And then I started to see how some corporations didn't pay taxes, or some government officials, seemed to get away with things, or others, like now, took off traveling when there was quarantines. I saw discrepancies in the law under our fundamental rights and freedoms. Everyone, every living, breathing person is to be treated equally. There is zero tasks and roles that makes anyone different or more important. Yet we've created a system in our minds based on what we've been told, that there's this hierarchical structure, that it's like the prime minister, the president, and the cabinet, all the top down, or the queen. And even the queen, in her Christmas message this year, you can go back and listen to it. She said, everyone is special or unique, and everyone is equal in God's eyes. And she believes she's there because God put her there. And she's saying everyone's equal. Every task is equal. Every idea is equal. Only the ideas here and what we've been taught, the beliefs and habits, think that somehow we've bought into being at the bottom of the pyramid, living, breathing people, and we're supposed to be fighting for our rights. And so if that is really 100% true for you, maybe consider you actually have these rights and you just never realized that. And if that is your new paradigm now, if you're realizing, oh my gosh, freedom is what they've been telling us. We thought democracy and freedom was the right to vote. And if you're like many people I know, they've felt disenchanted with the voting system and who they voted for and how the politics worked and who decides what for a very long time. They may have changed parties, but there was always some sort of, what? Why would they do that? Why would they make that arrangement? And right now, you've got a lot of our resources, our land, our water, and our air, even our air, that is starting to be sold off. I don't know how they're going to do the air. I haven't. Okay, so I'm not 100% certain on the air. But the water, our resources, our gold, our mining, all in the name of corporate profits, right? For so many. Well, those resources are part of planet Earth. Planet Earth is Mother Nature. Mother Nature is like you. Our body is like the whole globe. Every one of our cells is like a different part of the Earth. And so those resources, like the indigenous people said all over the planet, that's the gift. That's what we're here to tend to. We're here to make sure that it lasts for the next 7 generations. Or 10 or 20 or infinite. We want to take care of it because it's just like the earth is our home, the body is our home. And so if this was a health crisis, you would be hearing every day from your health minister ways to take care of your health. You would know that the studies show that upping your vitamin D by 50 will half your chance of getting a positive PCR test. And if you do happen to have severe symptoms and go into the ICU, the studies show if you've been on vitamin D, you're going to have a 95% recovery. The studies show that ivermectin is actually a treatment that stops all the inflammation that's going on, so you never get to the point of being on a ventilator. The stats on that, I'm still, I can't recite. So you can do your own research on this stuff. You would know that fresh air and connections and thinking positive thoughts all have an effect on your immune system. You would know that every time you get scared, your immune system contracts and it sets off cortisol. And in chronic stress is like gonna kill you. So if it was all just about health, you would know ways to, this would be the time that we're all learning how to take care of ourselves better, to eat more fresh food, to stay away from the processed food, to make good connections in our communities, to find new ways of creating life. And there's many of us that are doing that. They're happening all over the world. Co-creative, because that's the awakening that's going on from my perspective. Am I 100% sure? No, but that's what's coming to me, and so that's what I'm sharing. And it's up to each of you to know what's coming to you, what you feel true, and then act on it. I discovered recently that moral injury is the new disease for veterans. It's very like PTSD. It is when, except the difference is when veterans have followed orders or followed their group, did things that were so-called acceptable by the group, but inside they felt it was morally wrong. And now that they're home, they're, in a sense, tortured with that gap between doing something and feeling that. And any parent, in a sense, has had some sort of those experiences when you do things that you think are best for your kid, and then later on you think, oh gosh, maybe that wasn't. However, that's the best each of us could do at that time. And it's one thing to intellectually say it, and it's a whole other thing to release and forgive yourself for doing something that now you would never do. And so in the sense of judging others, if we can appreciate that they're doing the best they can and holding people accountable for, noticing and giving them the opportunity to change, to say, here you go, this is your role, which is what effectively I was saying to the police. Your role is to protect the public. That's the role you signed up for, right? So I'm talking to you as one living, breathing woman to a living, breathing man. You're playing that role. I'm playing the role that wants to raise people's awareness to health is actually in your hands. Health is actually a given. Health is more than what you eat or what you think. It's all combination of it. It's being the vibe. And it's all a process. Everyone has a space. Everyone has a journey. So just notice what you notice and ask yourself today, when you start to get attached to any particular story, that this is the way it is. Are you 100% true? Are you 100% certain that that's the way it is? Or could something else possibly be going on? Could something else possibly be happening? Spoiler alert now, if you've never read the Harry Potter series or you've never watched the movies, there was a character that seemed the evil one for a long time in the story, and then poof, was discovered that he was actually a double agent. And that's what I'm saying, is we do the best we can with what we know in this moment, and the next moment we might get new information. And if we can trust that this information is coming down to everyone, and as each of us acts on our own moral compass, our own inner guidance, we give power to others, and we share, and we think, and we feel, and we act into the world we wish to see. So if you really have ever complained about politics, about the educational system, about the medical system, or about any of that, now is your opportunity to say, clean slate. Let's work together to create new ways of being. Living, breathing women, men, children, all have an inner guidance, an inner connection, a moral compass, and everyone has a thought and a guidance to be one perspective on the circle. And this is the idea. We're going from back to this appreciation and love for each one of us, that each one is essential, because that's our rights and freedoms. Everyone is just as important, and everyone is to be treated equally under the law. And if you think everyone right now is being equally treated under the law, and you're 100% sure about that, I would love for you to send me, make the comment, let me know how that is. Everybody is being equitably treated under the law, and everybody is equitably receiving their freedoms. Standing for freedom, standing for love, joy, peace, health, love, wealth, unity. That's the vision I see. 1 billion people healed, maybe the whole world healed. Some may have to transition in the process of this great awakening, as everybody has a role to play. And some people's deaths are the road or the signpost for other people to question the next aspect of what's going on in the world. So, lots of love. Be the change you wish to see in the world.